In this video, we're going to talk about aligning the elements of our business card. And of course, there are more options than just these, but I'm going to break it down into left, center, right, and what I will call four corners. Now, with my particular logo that I want to bleed off the edge, my options are in some ways determined by the type of logo that I'm using. Of course, working with your logo, you're going to have different possibilities to me. I'm talking about the alignment of the type specifically. So here we've got the type left aligned, and I think this gives us a pleasing amount of white space up in the top right-hand corner so that things don't look too cramped. And the type doesn't need to be that big. I think it's quite readable at this size. I've clustered the information into groups that at least make sense to me. I put the name with the telephone number and then a small space between those two clusters of type and then all the other information. Far less successful than that, I think, is the center alignment, where because of the length of the lines, I've had to put two pieces of information on each of these lines, which is fine, but it just creates an odd amount of equal spacing either side of the logo and the name, and the card loses any kind of tension or dynamism that comes from the nature of the logo itself, where it's coming out of one side and then that is undermined by putting the whole thing in the middle, I feel. Down here we have the logo in the same position but the text right aligned, and that works okay, but because we're so used to reading, we've been doing it since birth, practically, reading from left to right, then reading with a ragged left edge, albeit for just a few lines, is still a little bit visually jarring, I feel. And slightly different from that is taking the different pieces of information and scattering them to the four corners. Now, two of our corners are already accounted for by the logo, so that only leaves these other two. Not dramatically different from the one on the right, but this actually works better than I was expecting it to, but I think we generally want to resist the temptation to put things in all of the four corners of our business card. It's okay and often, I think, preferable to have white space in the corner. So I don't think this works as well as this or even as this. Now, in all fairness to the center alignment, I'm not saying don't ever use center alignment, and I'm not saying don't use any of these options either. They can all work in the right context. I don't think any of these three are the right context here, but in terms of the center alignment, to be fair to it, if I were to work with a vertical business card and then center the information, I think that works a lot better. I'm still not sold on it and I wouldn't do it, but it looks a lot better in a vertical orientation than it did in a horizontal orientation. But basically, to summarize, generally speaking, it's preferable to avoid center alignment. Right alignment is hard to read or harder to read, and avoid the temptation to fill up all of the four corners of your business card. Instead, go with white space.